Former President Trump chose a Midwesterner as his running mate, and that fact is not lost on those looking at this election. Carl Winter is just across the plaza here. We're going to send it over to him. He spoke with NBC's Chuck Todd about what that might mean to voters right here in Northeast Wisconsin.
I'm Carl Winter here with NBC Chief Political Analyst Chuck Todd. And Chuck, we have a vice presidential nominee now from former President Trump. It's Senator JD Vance of Ohio. He goes with a man from another Midwestern swing state. How important do you think that will be getting into the election?
Well, I think the fact that two of the three finalists were Midwesterners tells you what the campaign was thinking, which is, if you look at the battleground map, Donald Trump appears to be ahead in the Sun Belt. And if he sweeps the Sun Belt, he only needs one Midwestern state, but he has to win one of them. Joe Biden can win all three of the Midwestern states, lose all the Sun Belt states, and still get the presidency. So when you think of it that way, then you see why a Midwesterner makes a lot of sense. Because if he just wins Pennsylvania, or just wins Michigan, or just wins Wisconsin, it's checkmate. And Joe Biden has no path to the presidency. So in that sense, it makes sense. When you think about the voters, sort of JD Vance was appealing to in Ohio, I think they see the sort of frustrated manufacturing job losses that have taken place in sort of mid-sized towns of, Green Bay's all too familiar with, certainly places in Michigan that way, sort of outside the urban areas of Detroit. So I see their theory of the case. I think there's some risk here, though, in that this isn't any ideological balance with the ticket. This does it really doubles down on populism, particularly economic populism, and national security sort of isolationism. This is both Vance and Trump sort of share the same view about tariffs, the same view about where, for instance, the war in Ukraine, they're both a bit skeptical of how much money has been spent there. And that to me is this is Donald Trump taking the party in a much different direction than the Bush or Romneys or the McCains have done in recent past.
Chuck, the theme of day one of the RNC is talking about wealth and the economy. And that's an issue that our voters in Northeast Wisconsin say is their number one issue going to the polls. Right. How much do you think that Trump and Vance will lean into that as they try to swing some of these undecided voters?
Look, cost of living has been popping as the number one or number two issue, depending on how you ask the question, all over. And I certainly think, every election, the economy and the perception of the economy. And look, this is an economy that is very frustrating to people. On one hand, you look at the stock market and you think, oh, things are great. But tell somebody under the age of 40 to go find a house, right? Very hard to buy a house. Interest rates are high. So I think in that sense, that's where the opening is for this ticket, is to talk about affordability and prices. It's an economy that works well for some, but isn't working for everybody. So I get that, and I certainly think that that's going to be an animating issue. And if that's what voters are thinking about going into November, that's not going to be good news for Joe Biden.
NBC Chief Political Analyst Chuck Todd. Chuck, thanks so much for the time. We'll have more for you guys at 9 and 10 here from the RNC. Reporting in Milwaukee, Carl Winter, NBC 26.